In November 2022, OpenAI launched ChatGPT. Now, in just 5 days, it had over 1 million users. In 3 months, that number skyrocketed to 100 million active users. Today, well, over 300 million people use ChatGPT every week. Now, these are staggering numbers, but they also reveal something bigger, that AI is becoming part of our everyday lives. But while everyone is debating the big existential risks of AI, will it align with humans? Will it cause Armageddon? Will it take people's jobs? I think there's also hidden but important risks happening right now under our noses. Risks that most people are not even noticing, hidden in plain sight. It's kind of like the frog in boiling water myth. If you throw a frog into hot water, it jumps out. But if you slowly raise the temperature, it won't notice until it's too late. And right now, we're sitting in warm water, using AI without realizing what's actually happening beneath the surface. And just for context, look, I'm optimistic about AI. I use it regularly and really think it's a force for good in the long term. But I just want to talk about some of these hidden risks, just to make sure you're aware of what's happening behind the scenes. So some people think AI tools like ChatGPT forget what you tell them after you use them. But here's the thing, AI models have something called a context window, which means that every time you chat with an LLM, it remembers what you've said. And even though your individual chats may reset, what you've told the model about who you are, your behavior, your interests, your personal details, writing style, and even preferences, they don't change. And it remembers who you are and starts building a profile about you. Now, this is obviously very useful and important because the more information you give it, the better answers it can give you. But the problem is when LLMs collect this information without asking for your consent. This isn't just like social media tracking you in the background, looking at what you're scrolling through and what you're liking. With AI models, you're willingly giving information about yourself, your thoughts, opinions, fears, ambitions. So this data can be used for hyper-personalized targeting, even more detailed than what social media already does. And look, I think this is totally fine. Data collection like this isn't new, but it's just the scale of which these AI models will know about us is something to be aware of, for better or for worse. The other thing I want to talk about is bias. I think, yes, AI can be deliberately influenced by the companies behind it. You can just imagine how big name brands can influence your answers. For example, when you're planning a vacation, recommendations on what to eat, activities to do, and what hotels to book can all be biased in favor of companies paying for your attention. Just in the same way, sponsored ads work on Google, YouTube, and other social platforms. It's something to be mindful about, but I can definitely see a world where this might happen, and what does it look like for discovery of non-paid content? But there's also something weirder happening, something I want to call cyclical bias. Now, here's how this works. If you ask an AI model a question, that LLM then gives you an answer because it's been trained by the existing data on the internet. You then publish that AI-generated answer back onto the internet in the form of a blog, maybe an article, a tweet, or even code that you've written. That AI model then trains itself on the same AI-generated content, creating a loop. Now, that's a big problem. It basically becomes an echo chamber. If everyone starts relying on AI for information and then feeding AI-generated content back into the system, the internet starts repeating itself. Answers become skewed. So, for example, take coding. Developers ask AI for code, and whether you like it or not, many copy and paste the responses straight into projects and documentation. But what happens when AI is training on its own regurgitated code? This could lead to an internet filled with AI-generated mistakes, and no one will ever notice until it's too late. That's the cyclical bias of what I'm saying. I think we need to be a bit more, we need to be super careful about the answers we give and also about how we use them, especially when you make them available on the web. Now, it's fair to say that AI is definitely making things easier, but sometimes I feel like it's getting kind of too easy, if you know what I mean. More and more people are accepting the first answer that they see without questioning it. There's a comfort level about all of this. They're not questioning, is it actually correct? Is there more to the story? Could AI be missing something that's important? It just goes back to the idea of bias and, the example of the coding stuff, that taking an answer at face value can create these sorts of vicious feedback loops. The thing is that when AI provides convenient answers, we stop thinking critically. And when this happens at scale across news, business, education, you can imagine a world where you could start making shallow, uninformed decisions. And when everyone is relying on AI instead of their own reasoning, what happens to human intelligence? The idea that we're just being fed surface level answers without having the underlying knowledge is something to think about as well. Right now, the biggest AI models like ChatGPT, Gemini, Llama, and Claude are controlled by just a handful of companies. The thing is that these companies decide what answers you get, how much access you have, what data they train on. The problem is that this could lead to an AI oligarchy where just a few organizations control the information flow, and closed source AI models make this even worse. That's why it's so exciting to see projects like DeepSeek, an open source AI model that gives more control to the consumers. Now, take a look at this diagram. We're in the old world right now. This is you or me, and this may be a company or a startup, for example, and they want to use these AI models for their own purposes, for their own applications. So what they'll do is that they'll talk to OpenAI, they'll connect with them, and they'll pay them to use their model. And this is just basically the traditional path that we have been on. The problem with this is that it's owned and controlled by OpenAI, and it's also paid. So you're basically giving money to use a service that these guys are providing to you, which means that they have full control of everything. But the new world with DeepSeek and R1 and subsequent models like this is that because DeepSeek is now fully open source, you can get the benefits of DeepSeek and these types of AI models with your own computer. It's completely under your control, you own it entirely, and it's completely free. This completely changes the game because now what you have is full ownership of the model. The fact that you can download it on your own machine and use it is just crazy. So where do we go from here? Look, AI isn't evil, but it's also not perfect. And I think the more we rely on it, the more important it is to be aware of its risks. Here's what we can do. At least understand how AI works. Don't just trust answers blindly. Compare multiple models. Different AI models give different responses. Question what you're told. It's good to think critically and challenge the assumptions. So I hope that was helpful. If you like the content, subscribe, give it a like, share it with your friends, and next time you'll get notified of similar content like this. But I really hope it gave you a sense of what's actually happening, some of the things that I've been seeing. I do want to create more videos on this, and I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.